weren't drawn to them by accident. You were programmed to seek them out. The people who can't love you, the emotionally unavailable, the dismissive, the critical, the ones who offer breadcrumbs and call it devotion, they're not just a mistake of fate. They're the echo of something older, something deeper, something terrifying. You've been told your longing is romantic, that it's just bad luck, that you're a good person caught in a cycle of poor choices. That's the lie. The truth is brutal. You crave love from those who can't give it because that's where your wound was born. You weren't taught love through warmth and presence. You were taught it through absence and confusion, through unpredictability, through inconsistency. Love became a battlefield, and your nervous system adapted like a soldier, not a child. Now, you're not looking for peace. You're not even looking for love. You're looking for resolution. You keep replaying the same emotional script, hoping one day finally the coldness will turn to warmth, that the person who withholds will see you, that the one who belittles will apologize, that the wound will finally close, not by healing, but by being rewritten. But here's the problem. You're asking a brick wall to say sorry. You're begging a desert to give you rain. This isn't about them. It's never been. It's about the blueprint etched into you since before you knew what love was. Carl Jung called it the complex, a cluster of wounds, beliefs, and patterns lodged in the unconscious, playing out in every interaction until made conscious. Until you bring that complex to the surface, it will dominate you. So let's be clear. This isn't a story of bad luck. It's a war inside your psyche. And the enemy isn't out there. The enemy is the ghost of the first time love felt like abandonment. And you've been loyal to that ghost ever since. Forget what you've been told. This isn't about finding love. It's about breaking a spell. Imagine a child standing on a battlefield. But this battlefield doesn't have guns or tanks. It has silence, rejection, sarcasm, emotional withdrawal. And that child isn't hiding. They're advancing toward the one holding the weapon, because that's what they were taught love looks like. This is the brutal metaphor we need to work with. Love, for many, began in a war zone. Carl Jung understood this dynamic not as mere trauma, but as the formation of a psychological complex. A complex isn't a vague issue or personality flaw. It's a living pattern buried in your unconscious, shaped by early experience, powered by emotion, and replayed with brutal accuracy. You don't choose to crave the unavailable. Your complex compels you. In Jungian terms, when you experience something too overwhelming for your conscious mind to handle, such as repeated rejection from a parent or caregiver, that emotion becomes split off. It doesn't vanish. It doesn't heal. It lives underground, forming a cluster of meaning, memory, and response we call a complex. This is why when someone pulls away from you, you don't just feel sad. You feel desperate. You feel triggered. You feel flooded by something older than the moment. You are not reacting to the person in front of you. You are reacting to the battlefield behind you. And here's where the trap becomes lethal. The child in you made a deal. If I can win love here, in this battlefield, then I am worthy of love anywhere. So you return to the scene, again and again, seeking to rewrite the ending, seeking to win the war you couldn't win as a child. But every return only reinforces the complex. Every emotional reenactment digs the pattern deeper into your psyche. You've become a soldier chasing peace from the hand that once held the weapon. But peace will not come through surrender, and it will not come from the battlefield. It will only come through awakening. The reason you keep chasing love from those who can't give it isn't because you're broken. It's because you've been conditioned. You were trained, like a soldier, to associate love with suffering. You didn't learn that love was consistent, nurturing, and safe. You learned that love was something you earned, something you chased, something you had to survive. And the body remembers. What you call attraction is often nothing more than familiarity. Your nervous system seeks what it knows, not what's good for you. That's why warmth can feel boring, why kindness feels suspicious, why distance feels magnetic. It's not love, it's recognition. It's the echo of your first wound, calling you home. This is what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You think you're making choices. You think you're being drawn to someone, but you're just being pulled by a pattern, by a script, by a ghost. And here's the brutal truth. Your pain isn't random. It's ritual. Each emotionally unavailable person you attach to is another altar where you reenact the same sacrifice. You give everything, hoping it will finally be enough. You bleed emotionally, hoping someone will see your worth. But they never do, because they were never supposed to. They are not the cure. They are the symptom. This is why healing feels like grief. Because choosing differently means letting go of the old fantasy. The fantasy that one day, if you just love hard enough, you'll finally unlock the affection that was always withheld. But that fantasy is a prison. You cannot heal in the arms of what broke you. You cannot find light by crawling deeper into the dark. You have to unlearn the addiction. You have to retrain your nervous system to recognize safety as love, not chaos. And that, Jung would say, is not a romantic journey. It is a heroic one. To break this cycle is not just about choosing better. It's about going to war with the part of you that still believes love must be earned. This is the heart of Jung's process of individuation, the journey of integrating the unconscious into consciousness. It's not self-improvement. It's not becoming better. It's becoming whole. And wholeness requires confrontation. There is a voice inside you, small, familiar, relentless, that whispers, "You were never enough." That voice isn't yours. It's the internalized voice of the first person who made you feel invisible. But because it's lived inside you for so long, it feels like truth. This is where the battlefield metaphor deepens. You are not just the soldier who fights for love. You are also the enemy general, commanding your own self-rejection. Every time you choose someone who cannot love you, you are not only reenacting the trauma, you are agreeing with the internal belief that you must suffer to matter. The real war, then, is not with them. It's within you. Jung warned that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That means facing the part of you that finds comfort in the pain, the part that feels more at home in chaos than in calm, the part that sabotages peace because it doesn't feel earned. This is not self-hate. It's self-loyalty to an old, outdated code of survival. To rewrite the battlefield is to recognize that you are no longer a child, that you no longer need to chase love, that the war is over if you choose to leave it. But leaving is hard, because pain is addictive, familiar, even sacred. The question becomes, can you stand in front of the ghost and refuse to fight? Can you choose a different ending, one where love doesn't require blood? This is the path of individuation. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it is the only path to freedom. One of the most seductive lies you've ever believed is this, that your love can change them. That if you're patient enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, they'll wake up, they'll realize, they'll choose you. But they won't, because that's not their role in your story. Jung would call this the projection of the inner healer. You don't just see a broken person, you see an opportunity to fix, to redeem, to win a war you were never supposed to fight. You turn them into a mirror, not of who they are, but of who you wish had loved you long ago. You convince yourself that if you can just love enough, you'll finally receive the love you were denied. It's not logic, it's longing. But here's the brutal truth. You don't want them. You want resolution. And you're using them as a stand-in for someone who's no longer here. This is why it hurts so much when they reject you. Not because you've lost a partner, but because the fantasy of healing through them has collapsed. The script failed. The ending you were promised never came. This illusion is one of the most dangerous weapons on the battlefield, because it disguises itself as compassion, as loyalty, as real love. But in reality, it's a delayed trauma response. It's the belief that suffering must precede acceptance, that if you endure enough pain, you'll be rewarded. That love is something earned through sacrifice. That's not love, that's martyrdom. And here's the thing, you were never meant to be a martyr. You were meant to be free. To be free, you must give up the idea that they will change. You must stop writing poetry about people who only speak in silence. You must stop trying to save those who were never drowning, just uninterested in swimming with you. Love is not a mission, it's not a war, and it's not a test, it's a home. And you deserve to stop building it in ruins. You don't fall for people who reject you by accident. You fall for them because they reflect something you already believe about yourself. This is the cruel elegance of the shadow, as Jung called it, the part of you that contains all the traits, feelings, and truths you were told to hide, suppress, or disown. Not because they were evil, but because they were inconvenient. When you were a child and your need for love clashed with your truth lost. You learned to shrink, to smile when hurt, to appease when angry, to pursue love at the expense of self. And now, that shadow, full of rage, grief, need, fire, still lives within you, screaming silently every time you chase someone who won't love you back. Every rejection reactivates it. Every dismissal confirms it. And instead of facing it, you project it outward, into people who echo your original wound. But you don't just want their love. You want them to validate the parts of you you've never dared to embrace. That's why rejection from them cuts so deep, because it's not just about losing someone. It's about losing the chance to be redeemed. But here's the brutal truth Jung offers. No one outside of you can redeem your shadow. That work is yours alone. You must reclaim the parts of yourself you were told were unlovable. The neediness, the sensitivity, the anger, the hunger for affection. You must look at those parts not as weaknesses, but as survivors. Aspects of your being that were pushed into exile so you could survive a world that punished your wholeness. They are not the enemy. They are the map back to your true self. You don't integrate the shadow by talking about it. You integrate it by living differently, by making choices that affirm your worth without permission from those who refuse to see it. This isn't just self-love, it's self-rescue, because no one's coming. And the longer you wait, the deeper the wound grows. But the moment you stop chasing ghosts and start embracing your truth, the war ends. You think you're just texting someone back. You think you're just being understanding. You think giving them another chance is what love is. But what you're actually doing, over and over, is negotiating your self-worth in micro-moments that look harmless. This is how the complex manifests. You get anxious when they take too long to reply, not because of the delay, but because you equate silence with abandonment. You feel intense attraction to someone who's emotionally distant, and boredom around those who are emotionally available. You replay conversations, wondering what you did wrong, instead of asking why they made you feel like you had to earn basic respect. These aren't personality quirks. They're battle scars. You were conditioned to walk on eggshells, so now chaos feels like home. You were trained to overextend emotionally, so now love without labor feels unreal. You learned that love is scarce, so now you chase it like a dying man crawling toward a mirage. And the worst part, the world rewards it. You're called loyal, romantic, committed, but what you actually are is in emotional captivity. You've built a nervous system that equates tension with intimacy, withdrawal with seduction, and inconsistency with value. So even when you say, "I want peace," your body still flinches when it finds it. This is how the problem hides. Not in dramatic moments, but in the mundane. You cancel your needs. You filter your feelings. You suppress your standards. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere deep down, you still believe you must earn love by bleeding for it. Until that belief is shattered, every relationship will feel like a slow reenactment of your earliest wound, dressed in modern clothes. You've probably tried it all. Affirmations, therapy buzzwords, texting rules, no contact rules. Just focus on yourself. And yet, you keep ending up in the same place, wanting someone who doesn't want you, hoping they'll change, blaming yourself when they don't. Why? Because the conventional solutions are designed for surface wounds, not soul fractures. They offer coping mechanisms, not root extractions. They tell you to raise your standards, but never show you how to grieve the part of you that still wants the old standard to finally see your worth. They tell you to just love yourself, but they skip the brutal step of burning the internalized belief that says love must be earned through suffering. They tell you to move on, but ignore that your nervous system is still chemically addicted to inconsistency, unpredictability, and intensity. They treat your trauma like an inconvenience, not like the architecture of your entire emotional reality. But here's the darker layer. Some people benefit from you staying wounded. Your insecurity fuels industries, from dating apps that profit off your longing, to influencers who sell you self-love hacks while bypassing the grief beneath your patterns. Even deeper, if you heal, truly heal, you stop being pliable. You stop tolerating crumbs. You stop betraying yourself. You stop entertaining chaos. That makes you dangerous, uncontrollable, free. So of course the world gives you shallow tools. They don't want you to transform, just to pacify yourself enough to keep playing the same game. But this isn't a game anymore. This is your psyche, your life, your war. And if you want to win, you need weapons forged from truth, not sugar-coated slogans. Your old blueprint won't vanish by accident. It must be intentionally dismantled and rebuilt through brutal repetition. Here's your new battle routine. Step 1. Radical self-inquiry. Every day, journal one question. Where am I still choosing someone else's comfort over my own truth? Be brutally honest. Write down even the smallest moments of compromise. Step 2. Emotional exposure practice, recognizing safety instead of chaos. Spend at least 10 minutes per day in total silence, alone, feeling your feelings without distraction. Teach your nervous system that calm is safe, not dangerous. Step 3. Controlled withdrawal. Distance yourself, systematically, from anyone whose affection is unpredictable. No excuses, no justifications. You cannot rewire your nervous system while still attached to what breaks it. Step 4. Conscious discomfort. Pursue interactions that feel slightly uncomfortable. Because they're consistent, transparent, and healthy. Lean into boredom, lean into kindness. Repeat until stability no longer feels threatening. Step 5. Relentless boundary reinforcement. Say no clearly, directly, and repeatedly, even when your old pattern begs you to bend. Practice saying, I won't accept less than consistency. I won't chase anyone's attention. I refuse to earn basic respect. Do this again and again, even when your voice shakes, especially when it shakes. This routine isn't easy. It's brutal. It confronts the deepest layers of your conditioning. But every repetition weakens your old love blueprint and strengthens your new one. Remember, the old version of you found security in pain. The new version must find strength in peace. You aren't creating new habits. You're creating a new identity, one defined by respect, consistency, and self-ownership, rather than sacrifice, unpredictability, and emotional scarcity. The battlefield of love won't vanish overnight, but each day, this routine shrinks it until it becomes something you control, rather than something that controls you. In your battle for emotional freedom, two forces constantly clash. Virtù, your inner strength, discipline, and clarity of purpose, and Fortuna, the unpredictable chaos of external circumstances, emotions, and relationships. You can't control Fortuna. People will leave. They'll misunderstand. They'll disappoint. Chaos will always try to pull you back into old patterns. But you can build Virtù, your internal fortress. Virtù is the brutal practice of self-sovereignty. It means you take full responsibility for your emotional reality, no matter what happens externally. When someone ghosts you, you don't spiral. You pause, you reflect, you say clearly to yourself, I can't control their choice, but I can control my response. My worth doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's attention. When chaos appears, you recognize it immediately. You call it by name. This is Fortuna testing my resolve. Then you choose consciously, again and again, to affirm your own value. You say to yourself, I will not chase what doesn't choose me. I won't negotiate my worth with someone's inconsistency. Over time, your virtù grows. Your fortress becomes stronger, more impenetrable. External chaos still occurs, but it no longer derails you. Instead, you become immovable. But here's the secret. Virtù isn't built through avoidance. It's built through confrontation. You must willingly face situations that previously destabilized you, armed now with new clarity. You must stand firm, face to face with Fortuna, and declare, I'm no longer yours to control. When you choose this level of self-mastery, something remarkable happens. The battle between Virtù and Fortuna shifts from chaos to clarity. You no longer see unpredictability as a punishment. You see it as a test, an opportunity to affirm your new reality. You move from victim to victor, from pawn to sovereign. You become emotionally bulletproof, not because chaos disappears, but because your power to respond becomes absolute. By now, you've faced the brutal truths and built the foundation of your new emotional sovereignty. Now it's time to advance beyond survival to mastery. 1. Psychological self-command. Train yourself to interrupt old emotional reflexes before they spiral. When you feel triggered, pause, breathe deeply, and consciously choose your response. Repetition builds neural pathways that rewire the war zone into a sanctuary. 2. Radical accountability. Own your role in perpetuating your pain without excuses or blame. This ruthless honesty cuts through denial, exposing patterns so you can dismantle them systematically. 3. Consistent environmental control. Curate your social and digital environment. Remove triggers, people, places, habits that feed your old complex. Replace them with spaces that reinforce your emerging identity. 4. Strategic emotional economy. Allocate your emotional energy like a general deploying troops. Reserve it for relationships and activities that yield true growth and respect. Withdraw from battles that cost more than they're worth. 5. Cultivation of inner witness. Develop the ability to observe your inner landscape without attachment or judgment. This detached presence is your ultimate weapon, enabling you to face chaos without losing ground. Implement these strategies daily with militant discipline. Your victory isn't guaranteed by chance or hope, but by relentless, strategic action. The war for emotional freedom is neither quick nor easy, but it is winnable. And the prize is more than love. It is self-mastery. It is power. It is the reclaiming of your life from the ghosts of your past. Now that you see the battlefield clearly, and you understand the brutal truth that your craving for unavailable love is not a flaw, but a war, it's time to stop hiding in the trenches. This message isn't for the weak-hearted. It's for those willing to stare down their ghosts and refuse to bow. If you are ready to break the cycle, to shatter the spell, to reclaim your sovereignty, then make your stand now. Declare it publicly. Write, "I am the commander," in the comments below. This is your declaration of war against the patterns that have kept you chained. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now. Knowledge without action is cowardice. Understanding without courage is betrayal. You've been fighting without knowing the enemy. Now you know. Now you can win. The war is yours to command. The battlefield is your mind. The prize is your freedom. Step into your power. Become the commander of your own heart. And remember, victory belongs to those who are relentless, ruthless, and unapologetically real.